I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, your home for deer hunting news, stories, and strategies. And now, your host, Mark Kenyon.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kenyon, and this is episode number 88. Today on the show, we are sharing our favorite hunting shows, books, magazines, podcasts, and much, much more. All right, welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, brought to you by Sitka Gear. And I'm sitting here right now in my office. The space heater is running, and I'm still cold because it's like 12 degrees wind chill outside right now, and I can just hear the wind like pounding on my windows, and I'm cold. And it's days like this that I kind of don't want to go outside sometimes. I don't know about you, Dan, but sometimes on days like this, I kind of just want to hibernate during the winter. But I'm still a hunting freak. What's so funny about that? You don't hibernate?
No. It's like, I don't know how you feel about that. And I don't know why every comment I make on this show has something to do with my kids. And
that's true.
In the past 24 hours, I would rather fight frostbite than be in my own house.
So you would rather lose a finger to frostbite, and you don't have a whole lot of those to spare.
I know, but I'm used to it.
Yeah, I get that. That's funny. I literally would just heard some story. I can't remember what it was, but something this past week reminded me of you because it was like talking about someone losing fingers, and I just sat there and thought about you and wondered what that must be like. But we're digressing pretty seriously pretty quickly.
That's the fastest we've ever gone off topic.
I didn't even get like the intro in. So I'll try to make the intro really short. Today, since I'm hibernating a little bit, and maybe some of you out there listening are hibernating and not going outside, maybe to do some of the different deer hunting chores that, we should be doing at this time of year. If that's you, I wanted to talk about some of the different things that you can still do to scratch that deer hunting itch while you're inside. So I wanted to talk through some of our favorite deer hunting or just hunting in general, our favorite shows, online shows, books, podcasts, resources, basically anything we do to be entertained or to learn about hunting and deer hunting. So we're going to kind of go through all of our different recommendations, talk through all those different things, and hopefully leave you all with a few different new places and resources to check out over the coming weeks. So that's kind of the game plan. But now that that's out of the way, Dan, what's going on this past couple of days that has got you in such a bad place?
On the inside, I'm crying, okay? But my family, and with kids, you get the flu. And not just one person gets it, but everybody. So me and my wife were sharing a toilet last night.
Is that like a same time type of thing, or?
Yeah, and that was because we were puking. I just want to let that know.
Okay.
We were barfing at the same time.
It wasn't like a sitting on the lap type deal.
Yeah, we weren't like spider swinging to go to the bathroom.
Move on. Keep moving on.
Anyway, long story short, flu came through our house the last 24 hours and just beat our family down. And I just got done changing my son's diaper, and that anyway, yeah. So this last couple days has been tough, and I haven't been out to do my deer hunting chores like I wanted to be. So yeah, I'm behind.
That's brutal, dude. I'm not envious of you. I just got sort of sick last weekend. Just kind of got hit with a cold, and that was like my first kind of thing like that for the year. And I just was reminded how crappy that feels. So I can't imagine how bad a flu running through your entire family must be. That sounds miserable.
Yeah, but we shall overcome.
So they say.
Yeah.
So they say. But other than that, all's well, I guess.
All's good, man. Just waiting for this election to get over so I can go back to regular TV commercials.
The what?
The election.
Oh, the election.
Yeah, gee, aren't you sick of all the commercials that are on TV?
No, I'm immune to it, dude.
You're immune to it.
I don't have cable.
Oh, you son of a gun.
Yeah, I cut the cord purposely just to avoid all the election crap.
I need to do that.
4
I
years
really
ago.
need to do that.
Yeah.
Man, it sucks so bad right now.
I was at we were gone this past week, as you know. We were traveling out west, my wife and I, and one night we got a hotel, the second to last night of the trip. Otherwise we were camping, but the second to last night we got a hotel, and so there was a TV, obviously, so it's kind of a luxury for us since we usually don't watch cable. So we popped it on, and very quickly I was reminded why I don't miss it. Between political ads, political commentary, and like the Weather Channel talking nonstop about the storm and like over dramatizing the big snowstorm like crazy. Like there was a guy on there who for 12 minutes, I'm pretty sure it was about 12 minutes, tried to demonstrate how to shovel snow and talked about it and dragged it on for that long. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Okay, Randy, we got 12 minutes to fill. Go talk about shoveling your snow.
That's exactly what it was. And then he's demonstrating proper form, demonstrating how to make sure you get it down low enough, how to hold it. Then he talked about his preference and different types of snow shovels. And then somehow he got into like the story of how he used to shovel the snow for some lady back when he was a kid, and how she gave him 50 cents a day, and how he used that to save up money to buy some crap. And it was the kind of horrible storytelling like you hear on the Wired Hunt podcast. It was bad. It was that bad.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I know. So
It's national television too.
yeah. So I'm not missing it. I still see stuff online, but at least I don't need to hear the talking heads and like you said, the commercials. Yeah. It's bad. I'm just over it already, and it's not even like the final.
There's only a couple places to escape, and I find myself watching Nickelodeon because they don't have as many of the political ads.
Is there anything good on Nickelodeon though?
Yeah, Paw Patrol, Blaze and the Monster Machines. I mean, do you really want me to keep going? I think I might start a podcast just on cartoons.
I bet you that'd be way more successful than the Nine Finger Chronicles. Just kidding. It'd be more successful than this one. That's for sure. Yeah, I can't relate, but someday I guess I probably will. There's a whole like new generation of kids shows and movies that I'm just totally clueless about. I suppose.
I'm starting to learn about it, and I learned that it's hilarious because they are starting to go into adult jokes, but subtle adult jokes.
Right.
There's this one cartoon that my daughter, she's laughing hysterically. I come upstairs, and this family, their favorite meal is to eat burritos, and they sit there and fart for like 5 minutes straight. And my daughter laughs about, oh, they farted.
Okay, I would like that.
Yeah, I would laugh. I laughed at it too, but I'm just like, God, is this what we want our kids to watch? And
yeah, seriously, the dumbing down of our society is starting at a very young age.
Very young age.
So speaking of dumbing down in TV shows and stuff, what do you think about today's topic, Dan?
Hey, I tell you what, I do my fair share of consuming entertainment / educational, I guess, / background noise for of hunting podcasts and web shows and TV shows, and I do
Yeah.
a little reading as well. So it's something that consumes our time for us freaks out there, I guess.
Yeah, that's the truth. And I was thinking here, this might be a really bad idea given the fact that we're about to share all sorts of different shows and books and podcasts and websites and things that people can go check out. Since we're basically recommending all of our competition for people to go check out Wired to Hunt.
But let me clarify something. The Wired to Hunt podcast is the best podcast on the internet. So the people who are listening to that, when we say we go to these other places, it's a recommendation. It's not mandatory like the Wired to Hunt podcast is.
Right. And so with that said, that's going to be the end of the show today. That's all we wanted to cover.
Have a good week.
And stay wired to hunt. No, in all seriousness, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and hopefully what we're doing here at Wired to Hunt and with your stuff at Nine Finger Chronicles, hopefully everyone finds that helpful. But we are not the only show on the road here, so wanted to kind of share all the different stuff that we like. I'm, just like you said, we're freaks about all this stuff, and I'm constantly consuming different media. I mean, everything from print to digital to TV to, if I'm not outside doing stuff, I'm usually reading or watching or hearing something about hunting or deer. That's our life, right? So
That's right.
So I always get really excited when I get new recommendations about books or whatever it might be, because I'm always trying to find the next thing and looking to discover something new that I'm excited about. So I thought, heck, why not? Why don't we offer some recommendations, since we've got, I think, a lot of different things that we've been checking out. So do you have a certain category, Dan, that you want to start with of all the different types of stuff? Because I was thinking maybe we go category by category and then just kind of walk through some of our favorite things, talk about it, argue about it, talk about why our opinions suck or don't. But actually, Dan, before you answer that, how about we take a real quick break for a word from our sponsors of this podcast, Sitka Gear. And today I wanted to hear from Sitka product category leader Dennis Zuck about the importance of properly fitting hunting gear. Over recent years, companies like Sitka and others have put a real new attention to detail and fit when it comes to hunting apparel, and I'm just kind of curious, why is this so important, and what should we be thinking about on this front when we're choosing our own new gear? So here's Dennis.
Yeah, and fit's a huge conversation. A little funny part is, when we started looking at our whitetail collection coming here in 15, we had a group of guys out in Illinois who we work with quite a bit, and there's 17 of them, in fact, and we measured them, and we asked them, is what do you think you wear? And the funny thing is the size ranges were all over the map because of what you described. They've experienced, whether I buy from this brand or that brand, just nothing's consistent. So first of all, understanding that that's probably true, and it's probably good to measure yourself and know what size you are. So for us, when we think about fit, we think about where does it fall in our systems? Is it a next to skin product? Is it a base layer? Is it a mid layer? Is it outerwear, and am I planning to stack on top of it? Or really, given where it's positioned in my line, am I not planning to stack on top of it? So if if you're looking at a jacket and you're thinking, well, I want to wear a base layer, I'm going to wear a puffy underneath of this, or an insulation layer, and I'm buying from Sitka, and I wear a large, maybe I should buy an extra large. Well, know that we've thought about that. So we've taken that into the consideration in our sizing. We also, the athletic fits in some of our, if you're buying our mountain equipment type of stuff, because of the nature of what you're doing, that may be more of an athletic fit. Where in whitetail, where you need a little bit more, range of motion, or, it's more about sitting comfortably for a long time, just sedentary, that's maybe more of a relaxed fit. So we absolutely think a lot about fit. Full acknowledgement that it's, as a hunting industry, probably, all over the place, but we try to be very consistent here. And if you buy a large in one category, you can buy it in another. And we've tried to think about the layering process.
So if you'd like to learn more about Sitka Gear's layering systems, you can visit sitkagear.com. And now, Dan, where do you think we should start with this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna, we might as well just start right at the beginning and go with, I guess, TV and web shows. That would kind of fall under one category, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So do you have a favorite? Well, here's the first question. Do you watch more hunting video content on your TV, like on cable TV or online in some way?
Well, I tell you what, it's probably close to 50-50. The only time I really watch, I do watch TV shows, but it's while I'm doing something else. So typically, whether I'm writing a blog or editing a podcast or answering emails or doing some research on products, I am in the background. I have hunting shows on. And it's not that I really focus on them, because I'll give you later on, I'll give you my opinion on some of these shows. But when I sit down and I actually consume the television shows and really let it soak in, I'd say not as much as the online stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that's becoming the trend. Like, the majority of people are going more and more that way. I mean, the more I hear from people, I've polled actually our audience on our Facebook page and everything to see, how many of you listen to either or, which one do you watch more. And last time we checked on Facebook, the vast majority of people said they watch online more than TV now, which I think is a pretty big paradigm shift. I'm not sure that a lot of like the TV shows and networks out there, I mean, I think most people know it's coming, but I'm not sure people are moving on it fast enough. I don't know. From what I see, obviously I'm a little bit biased to digital. I'll admit that. But, I mean, that's where things are going,
Well, historically, the hunting industry has been a good old boys club, so to speak. And they've always been just a step or two behind when it comes to changing, advertising or changing marketing through television or that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, across all, whether it's advertising or just where you're putting your content or where you're spending your time.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's definitely not a rule. There certainly are a lot of different people out there that are creating stuff and moving towards where people's attention is moving. There's a lot of smart people out there that are doing really good stuff. So I don't want to say that, everyone out there on TV doesn't know what they're doing, because there's a lot of great stuff, right?
Right.
So,
right.
But yeah, for me, like we just mentioned a second ago, 99% of everything I watch now is digital. I still buy a couple DVDs every year because I like to take them on my like rut trips or different trips. Me and my buddies go out of state when we stay at some dingy hotel room, and we'll just pop in a DVD. But other than that, everything else is digital for me. So.
Yeah.
Because of that, I'm a little bit behind probably on some current TV shows, to be honest. Like I back when I used to have cable, I used to watch a lot of hunting shows, and I'm sure we can talk about our opinions on that. But now I'm not not checking that as often. I kind of like follow what people say about it online and stuff, but I'm not watching. Like, I haven't seen the most recent episodes of basically any TV show now, so you might need to fill me in on some of those things. But I don't know. Let's talk about it. Hunting TV shows. We've kind of bounced around this topic before in past episodes, but let's just confront it face on. How do you feel about them?
Hunting television shows. My personal opinion is, from an entertainment standpoint, I feel it's entertaining. You can sit there, you can watch a big buck get slammed, and you go home. But how these hunting television shows perceive hunting is way different than I feel of 90% of the other hunters out there.
So you mean like how it's representing hunting?
How it's representing. Yeah, and what I mean by that is a majority of these shows, and I'm not saying all shows, but I'm saying a majority, show up to an outfitter, walk into a stand that they've never hung, property they've never scouted. They sit in a stand because the outfitter told them to, and they kill a deer. I don't know about you, but I don't. That's not how I hunt.
Haven't experienced that one.
Yeah, I've never used an outfitter. I can't afford it. I can't afford property to lease land, and I can't afford to purchase my own land. So there's 3 strikes right there against the way I hunt, and it's very hard for me to sit there and not only relate to them, but try to take something away from the show, because when you add the commercials, it's 22 minutes. And in my opinion, you can't tell a story in 22 minutes if you want it to be educational.
Right.
So I've seen it. I don't know. I'm kind of I don't know if you want to say underground or kind of a rebel against the whole thing.
Dude, you're so hardcore.
I know, dude. I'm hardcore, dude. But I don't know. I don't get it. What I love about the shows, and I'll get into the ones I like. What's your opinion on it?
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit because I agree with most of what you're saying too. But what I will say is, right, a popular complaint that we make sometimes and that a lot of people make sometimes, just like you said, is, what you see on TV isn't realistic for most people. And a lot of these guys are just with an outfitter and blah, 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 blah. And they make it look super easy and they make everyone think that it's easy. And then when we don't actually live that out, people are disappointed. So I definitely agree with a lot of that sentiment. I can relate to that personally. At the same time, it's kind of like McDonald's in that McDonald's is making what the people want. In that, right, even though it's not good for us, I'm still, some of us are still going to McDonald's and we're still getting our large fries and our Big Mac and all that stuff. And it's maybe not right for me to sue McDonald's for making me fat if I just keep on eating it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that people, for whatever reason, most people get pretty geeked when we see big bucks on TV. It's kind of like our fantasy time. It's our aspiration time. And I just don't know. Now, maybe in a perfect world, I wish that, there'd be a hunting show where it shows the whole real life story of stuff. And you never kill anything except for on one episode, and it's a disaster all the rest of the season, and you're frustrated, and you're tired, and you're cold. And, man, that's the real stuff. But would that actually get people to consistently watch it all the time? And would people actually get pumped about that TV show? And would advertisers sponsor that TV show and all that kind of stuff? I mean, I don't know if, that would actually work for a lot of people. So from that standpoint, as I'm trying to play devil's advocate for myself, I kind of get why some of these shows are like that because people keep watching them, Yeah. It's like, even though I can't relate to Lee and Tiffany or whatever because I don't have so many thousand acres and all that kind of stuff, I still kind of like seeing big deer and, like to sit there and dream, man, it'd be sweet to have that farm. Right. So, I see it from both sides of the coin.
And I'm not sitting here trying to hate on these quote unquote celebrities, but when you shoot a deer here's another pet peeve of mine. You shoot a deer and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is thanking the outfitter or thanking some product or something. I can tell you right now.
Well, let's be clear, Dan. There's no way they would have killed that deer without the acorn cruncher or whatever it was.
The black rack.
Yeah.
But it almost makes me sick because knowing that in the back of their head they're thinking about, and maybe me and you are purists, but they're thinking about something else other than the kill. They draw back and they're like, okay, let's shoot them, and then I got to make sure I say this. So where's that enjoyment? Where's the, it's like they're so focused on trying to promote something instead of enjoying the hunt and the kill that, to me, it just loses everything. It loses the power.
Yeah, there certainly are some instances where it's pretty phony. It's obviously contrived or over dramatized, not real.
Right.
And like you said, for me that's a turnoff. And there was a DVD I bought recently that I've bought this DVD that comes out every year for a long time. And this year, for whatever reason, I just noticed it seemed like every single hunt was an outfitter. Mm-hmm. And it was just over and over and over and over and over. There wasn't any, DIY hunts. There wasn't anyone who was doing things on their own farm. It was just overwhelming. And what you just said, the fact that the first thing they say is they thank their outfitter and they thank their bow sponsor or whatever it is, it just got to be too much for me. And I just I didn't even finish it. I was like, I think I'm done with this. Like you said, it's a big turnoff. So not trying to hate on anyone in particular, but there's some of this stuff that if it turns you and me off, it probably turns off a lot of other guys who, if anyone should be forgiving of it, probably you and I should be because we're, involved in the right, quote unquote industry a little bit. And so if we get irritated by it, I can't imagine how people who, totally aren't in it would feel too,
Right. But, don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of shows out there that I find interesting. And I'll just name a couple here.
Yeah, let's talk about some.
anything DIY. So there's a guy named Solo, or he does a show called Solo Hunter, I think it's called.
Yep. Tim Burnett, right?
Yeah, I think so. He goes out, throws up a tent, and he does what me and you did out in the elk woods. You know,
He sat in a tent with another man while it rained all night.
no, he's by himself.
Okay.
He's by himself. He doesn't have a partner.
So way less weird than what you and me did.
Yeah, way less weird. There's no uncomfortable situations in his tent. But,
Sorry, continue.
but you know, he self films everything. He goes out. He tries to get awesome camera angles of these animals that he's shooting, and it's relatable because you get to see how hard it can be sometimes.
Yeah, which we can definitely relate to.
Right. Anything DIY, the other person that I really like watching, and maybe it's because when I grew up, me and my dad every Sunday night would watch National Geographics.
Oh yeah.
And it was this awesome show that was on Sunday nights right before, we'd sit down with some popcorn and watch this. And it was different places in the world or going to ocean exploration. Now, Jim Shockey, his new show, what's it called?
Uncharted,
where he goes to random places in the world. And it's not just the kind of random places, when we think an out-of-country hunt, we think Africa, right? Most of the time we're thinking Africa, and these guys are sitting at a watering hole and they're just waiting. That's not what really I see this show. This show is about culture, and that's why the show is an hour long. But it's about culture. He shows the culture of the people of the area where he's hunting. He's showing, the path up this 14,000-foot mountain to hunt a sheep that only lives in this particular area of Afghanistan or Nepal or whatever country he's in. It shows the hard work and it actually takes to just plan and get to it.
Yeah.
Not just the hunt itself, but there's an entire process that leads up to getting on the plane.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that one, and how, like you said, there's a lot of focus on the culture and the adventure and everything, which sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so anything adventure. I mean, I love that stuff. As far as those are two that stick out to me.
Nice. Yeah, those are two that I haven't seen Uncharted, but I've heard a lot about it, and I have seen some Solo Hunter earlier seasons when I was still watching TV, and they've got some stuff on YouTube I've watched too. Another couple shows that I really like. I've always been a big fan of Heartland Bowhunter. Those guys, I think they really kind of kicked off this revolution in higher production value video when it comes to TV shows, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And they've always done a really good job with the storytelling, I always thought. I liked it because, when I first started my full-time job back in the fall of 2009, I got shipped out to our headquarters in San Francisco, as you know. And so I was out there during a hunting season. I couldn't do anything. So one of the things I did was I discovered Heartland Bowhunter. They had their episodes online. And so I started watching those, and I kind of just lived vicariously through those stories since I couldn't go outside or do anything. And so ever since then, I've always been a big fan of what they've been doing, because I just think they take the visual, they take all the production and storytelling stuff really seriously.
It makes it better. When you have good editing and good production value, it makes it better, period.
Oh yeah, dramatically, and luckily since then, a lot more shows have been taking things up a notch, so that's good. My other show that I really like a lot is Meat Eater with Steven Rinella.
Yeah.
I'm a big Rinella fan, and I always enjoy his focus on, again, the landscapes, the scenery, the story, the adventure, and lots of times he doesn't kill anything, but he's always talking about, interesting things. I enjoy his the educational, intellectual side of a lot of things he discusses, and then also the focus on food, which is super important. So, like the Meat Eater show, which you can also download those episodes online. You can get that meateater.vhx or something like that. I haven't watched many of the recent shows, but some of the older stuff, I enjoy the Drury stuff. We've enjoyed having Terry and Mark on the show. Our episode with Mark and Terry, but they were incredible, right? We learned a ton. So I've always enjoyed how the two of them especially always seem to just kind of offer a little bit of insight before a lot of their hunts, and they do a pretty good job with their stories and stuff too. So those are some of the TV shows that I've enjoyed in the past. Have you seen the Jury's show 13? Have you seen that one yet?
Yep, I've seen it.
Yeah.
It kind of goes through. They break down 13 categories based on the whitetail year.
Yeah, the phases of the season.
Phases. Yeah.
Yep, and Mark explained those in our interview with him on episode 63. But I thought they did a good job with that. And they do a nice mix of, sharing their experiences and stuff with good hunts. And, that's a situation where they've got these incredible farms and incredible deer, but they make it relatable, and at least that they share some of the stuff that goes on. It's not like they just showed up at a farm and killed a deer the first day. So I like that.
Right. The good thing about that is it's their farm. They're doing the work on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to an outfitter every time. Now they probably do. I haven't watched a lot of the Drury stuff, but especially on TV. But I'm sure they do their own work on their own farms. I'm sure they use outfitter. I know they use outfitters as well. But to see progress and storylines based off previous years, I find that interesting.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I love the story, especially if it's like a multi-year story, which is one of the things with the Druries, especially. They've done a really good job of it because, and in all honesty, because they have the opportunity to do so with some of these farms where these deer can get multiple years. But shoot, there's been some storylines where they've shared, hunting a single deer for having followed or photographed and gotten pictures and footage for 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, that's pretty cool. And, most of us probably won't get to experience something like that, but it's kind of fun still to follow someone who did. So I've enjoyed that. And then the DVDs from the Druries, those are the DVDs that I still do like to buy or get online because of those same things. The DVDs are pretty good. So I like the Drury DVDs. As far as TV shows, those are the ones I found. I know there's a whole lot of other ones out there that I'll click into, and back when I used to have TV, I click into and watch and stuff. A lot of the people we've interviewed on the podcast have got TV shows that are worth checking out. Adam Hayes, I think it's Team 200. I've seen a few of their episodes, and anything with Adam Hayes I find pretty fascinating, just because the guy is a legend as far as I'm concerned, with how he's hunting and killing deer. So that's super interesting. Who else? Whatever. Well, you mentioned Shockey already. We've mentioned Heartland Bowhunter. I enjoy watching Lee and Tiffany's show sometimes back in the day, just because I think, again, to what we said, it's just kind of fun dreaming about having a place like that. I mean, can you imagine hunting a spot like that?
Where they're passing booners because they're only 3 years old.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
That'd be a change of pace for me.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So there's some interesting ones out there. But what about web shows? There's a lot of good stuff online when it comes to video content. Do you watch some of that stuff too?
Yeah, I tell you what, Midwest Whitetail.
Yes.
And some of my favorite episodes are the tree stand trimming episodes, where they're going out into the timber and then they talk about why they're putting a stand in this location in relationship to food plots, bedding areas, travel corridors, pinch points, and all that stuff.
That's one of the nicest things about the digital format, the online format, is that you can have an episode like that you don't need to worry about people getting bored and leaving or whatever. When I think these guys have got a TV show and they've got 22 minutes and ads, they're kind of forced to put in, certain things to try to keep viewers and stuff like that. But with the digital format, you can have a 7-minute episode that's just about trimming a tree, and then the next week you could have a 20-minute episode about a deer hunt. And the next week they can share 5 minutes about a food plot, and lots of opportunity for education.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I love that. And I think on your little list here, one that I consume the most of is Carbon TV.
Yeah. So Carbon TV is essentially like an online network of TV shows and videos and stuff like that for hunting and all sorts of other outdoor recreation too. What shows do you watch on Carbon TV?
Okay, so obviously the Heartland Bowhunter stuff.
Yep.
But the other day, I watched PBR Rodeo.
Nice.
I don't know why, but I got into it and I watched like 5 or 6 episodes of bull riding.
Is it just bull riding, or is it like a reality series about the bull riders?
I don't know if it is or not, but there's a lot of bull riding. It could be.
Interesting stuff, though, huh?
Yeah, interesting. Anything, and then anything out west, like stuff that I don't get to experience a lot. So there's a couple shows out there that are dedicated to like mountain hunting or elk and sheep. You know, there's, it's coming to that point in my life where there's very slim chance I ever get to go and hunt a bighorn sheep just because of the odds it takes to get drawn in some of these zones. And so I just love watching things that I probably won't ever get to do.
Yeah, it's nice to dream. That's for sure.
Yep.
Especially that adventure stuff out west or Alaska or the Yukon.
Alaska. Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. That I agree. I love that stuff. Just to sit there and think about it, wonder what it would be like, and just kind of like mountain porn for me.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. But yeah, lots of good stuff on Carbon TV. Growing Deer TV is a good one, especially if you're interested in like management stuff. That's with Dr. Grant Woods, who was a guest on the podcast last year.
Yep.
He does like weekly episodes, which are great, which showcase like his hunts, and then also a lot of detail about his management plans, his habitat work, his food plot work, predator control, everything. So if you're looking to learn about management stuff, that's a really good one to watch. And like you said, Midwest Whitetail, Bill Winke does a great job, both with hunts and big deer and stories, but then also education. I like that. White Knuckles web show, I think, has done a really good job over the years, and you were involved with that for a long time, Dan, and I enjoyed your stuff there. And, I think John Mulligan, our friend John, just had an episode released there, which is pretty cool. So good stuff on that front. Have you seen Montana Wild videos?
Montana Wild? No, I have not.
They're doing some cool stuff if you want to watch some Western hunts. They do some fly fishing and then a whole bunch of different Western hunts. They've got some really cool videos on their YouTube and Vimeo channel. I'd recommend that. They're out of Montana, obviously. But they've just got a really good style to what they do and good storytelling, I think. More like short films. They're not like frequent episodes. It's like a handful of films every year, but I like those.
You know what? Which bring me to a point whatever you just said sparked an idea in my head, and that's why I'm going to say words right now.
Well, that's good. That's a good start. Proceed.
The short season.
Yeah, Simpson.
Whoever that guy is. His corporation or his little production company that puts those together. I really like those. And the cool thing about that is there's a little bit of interviews, but a majority of it is just good footage that, just because there is a video of a guy putting up a tree stand, you don't need to have a voiceover of a guy putting up a tree stand. You know what I mean? It's just like they let the footage do the talking, and it's edited very well.
Yeah, they do a very good job. Beautiful footage.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good one. The short season. And also one of the sites I mentioned that I was going to mention, which showcases a lot of this stuff, is called huntervids.com, which is another kind of destination site that houses a whole bunch of videos, and people can submit their videos and stuff. So if you're looking for some different films or shows that are available online, like we said, Carbon TV is a good one to discover new ones, and then huntervids.com is another good one to find a lot of these films and stuff. Donnie Vincent, one of our guests on a past episode, he's got a lot of great short films and stuff available online. That's definitely worth checking out too.
Yeah.
Bow Hunt or Die is another one. Our friends Todd Graff and Justin Czar do a great job with that, I think. So that's at bowhunting.com. Do you get to watch any of those?
Oh yeah, I watch. I don't get to watch it as much as I'd like, but I'm familiar with it, and they do the same thing, similar to kind of like the Midwest Whitetail, where they go through the entire season, food plots, tree trimming, everything.
Yeah, and they put a lot out. I mean, they do a good job. And it's tough to do that. I've tried to do frequent web videos and stuff throughout the season, and my little tiny operation here struggles with it. So I know it takes a lot of time, energy, and people. So these guys like Midwest Whitetail, Growing Deer, Bow Hunt or Die, I mean, mad props to them and what they're doing. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other video stuff that we haven't mentioned yet, Dan, that you think we should? Any other recommendations?
No, I don't. Nothing that pops off right on top of my head.
All right. Well, before we move on to the next category, though, we do need to pause briefly for a word from our sponsors of this episode, Bear Archery. And as I mentioned last week, one of the most fascinating things about Bear Archery is their history, having been founded by the legendary Fred Bear. And so this week, as we did last time, I wanted to share a quote from Mr. Bear that I think we'll all be able to relate to. So here we go. And I quote, "Life in the open is one of my finest rewards. I enjoy and become completely immersed in the high challenge and increased opportunity to become for a time a part of nature. Deer hunting is a classical exercise in freedom. It's a return to fundamentals that I instinctively feel are basic and right." End quote. So, if you'd like to learn more about Fred, the history of bear archery, or what's new with bear archery, visit beararchery.com. And now, back to the show. All right, let's move to another category. What about books? Do you know how to read? Do you read?
Asshole.
I kid. Do you have any? I'm a super book nerd, so maybe this is a category for me. But do you have any recommendations on the book front?
I do not. The last time I read any type of book was actually during our Western hunt. And I want to tell you, what was the one with the guy who headed out west? What was his name?
George Bird Grinnell.
Yep, George Bird Grinnell. Send me that book when you're done reading it so I can finish it up.
Yes, I did finish it, so I'll send it to you. That's one of the books I was going to recommend, so I'd say I'll start off there. I'll try to not make this too boring, but I've got a blog post. And actually, we had a blog post about the top recommended online shows and videos and all that kind of stuff. I'll link to that in this blog post, but also for books. I've got a huge recommended reading list, but I thought I'd share a couple of my favorites for any of you readers out there. And like you just mentioned, Dan, one of them is called The Last Stand. And it's the story of the buffalo, the American bison, and George Bird Grinnell, who was the original founder and editor of Forest and Stream magazine, which eventually became Field and Stream, which obviously we all know today. Super interesting story about, how the whole, what happened with the buffalo in America, how they were nearly extirpated, how they nearly went extinct, and then how people like George Bird Grinnell and Teddy Roosevelt and some of these other guys were able to intervene and change a lot of things to allow that species to recover, and all the other big game species now, like deer and elk and bears and everything else out there. That basically these guys, these hunter conservationists who we've talked about before, they were our forefathers that allowed us to now do what we do today. So it was a great book examining that history, and man, super interesting, both from like a story standpoint and like the history of us as hunters and conservationists. So I'd highly recommend that to anyone who wants to better understand, the history of conservation and how we hunters actually, our ancestors were a big part of that. So I'll get you that book, Dan, because I think you'll like it.
Sweet.
On the conservation standpoint, another really good one is the Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. This is a book that kind of established a lot of the conservation ethic that we still follow today about ecosystems and how hunting can fit into that and all sorts of stuff. So that's a really good one to read on a conservation standpoint. Any of the books by Steven Rinella, we already talked about Rinella, but he's got 3 novels out. Well, not novels, but 3 nonfiction books that I really recommend that kind of cover all of Steve's different hunting adventures and things like that. The Scavenger's Guide to Hot Cuisine, Meat Eater, and The American Buffalo, which is another interesting look at the story of buffalo and conservation in America, and then his own personal hunt for buffalo. Those are 3 really good ones. When we had Shane Mahoney on, Dan, I don't know if you remember me mentioning this book, but it's a book called A Hunter's Heart. That's a really good one. It's a series of different essays and short stories by a whole bunch of different people, all about hunting and various topics related to it, conservation, ethics, how we talk about hunting. A lot of different things that I think we hunters should just be thinking about. That's a really good one. So those are some good ones that are kind of like thinker books that make you think about hunting and the deeper aspects of it. If you just like good stories, Field and Stream released a book like a year or 2 ago with like the best hunting stories, best American hunting stories. I think that was a fun one. Bill Heavey is a writer for Field and Stream. He does like the back page column. I don't know if you've ever seen his back page articles, but they're super funny. He's got 3 books that are really good. As far as like learning about hunting, like educational stuff, here's some that I'd recommend. We had John Eberhart on the show this past summer, and if you listen to that episode, you know he's got a wealth of information. Well, he co-authored 3 books with his son that are terrific. One was Precision Bow Hunting. Another one is Bow Hunting Whitetails the Eberhart Way. And I think another one's, Hunting Highly Pressured Whitetails or something like that. And then his son, Chris, wrote one called Whitetail Access, which is a really cool book that followed his one single hunting season. This is one you would like, I bet, a lot, Dan. It follows his hunting season where he lived out of a van and hunted like all across the country, and like did it super cheap, like on a shoestring budget. Like he lived in his van, he showered with like a bucket of water, he ate cold soup every night, and hunted in Wisconsin and North Dakota and Missouri and a couple other places, Michigan a little bit. And then through that story, each place he went into like detail of like how he scouted, how he set up, diagrams of where he hung his tree stands. It's like a great story and educational. So that's a really good one. I think you should check that one out.
What was the name of that again?
Whitetail Access by
Right.
Chris Eberhart.
Gotcha.
Jeff Sturgis, we've had him on the show a couple times. You remember him, right, Dan? We enjoyed that.
Yep.
He's got 3 books now. He just released his 3rd book. So Whitetail Success by Design, Whitetail Food Plots by Design, and Mature Buck Hunting by Design, Mature Buck Success by Design are his 3 books. Those are really good. I'm just starting his 3rd one. I'm not gonna try to run through every single book I can think of, but the Eberhart books are great. Craig and Neil Doherty, we've had both of them on the show. They have several books that are great. We've had Don Higgins on the show. His books are great. And then the 3rd one, have you ever seen the book Mapping Trophy Bucks?
I have not.
That's one you should check out for sure. It's by Brad Herndon, and basically the whole book is it's basically all about how various terrain features and topography influence deer movement and how you can set up on that. So there's lots of maps, topo maps, and diagrams, and all sorts of stuff. Covers, how deer use ridges, how they use funnels, how they use saddles and ridges, all sorts of stuff like that. So really good detailed book for if you want to learn about how deer use terrain. I want to get Brad on the show someday. So that's a good one too. I've got a million other recommendations. I'm sitting here looking at my bookshelf, and it's stacked with books, but I won't run through too many of these. But check out the blog post. I'll link to it. Our ultimate recommended reading list for hunters has got tons of books. If you like to read, we've got a lot of recommendations for you there.
Do you happen to have anything like whitetail cliff notes, like hunting whitetail cliff notes, or hunting whitetail for dummies? That might be right up my alley.
Yeah, there's a couple out there that might fall in that category.
This is a buck.
Yeah.
This is a doe.
That would be helpful, wouldn't it? But those couple books I recommend, you should definitely check those out, Dan. I think there's a lot of good stuff out there. Do you read any hunting magazines?
Yes, I do.
What about those? Got any you like?
Well, I tell you what, I grew up on Field and Stream and Outdoor Life, mainly Outdoor Life. My favorite when I was growing up, my dad would get those, or my mom would get those magazines for me. And I love the cartoon, the illustration about something crazy that happened in the woods, like a guy, falls out of his canoe on a canoe trip, and he has to survive until, he gets up enough energy to walk, through the woods to a road, or a guy gets attacked by a bear, or a guy this is my favorite one. I'll always remember it. A guy gets a brand new rifle for Christmas. He goes out, he shoots a buck. He sets his rifle in the rack of the buck, steps back to take a picture. When the camera flashed, went off, the buck got up, ran away with his rifle in his rack. Those kind of crazy stories. But
that's insane.
Yeah, that on top of all the other great content that Outdoor Life has, put out through the decades that they've been a magazine.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit lax with their standards of who they let in their magazine, though. Now, Dan.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Just anybody can do it.
Well, if that Kenyan guy can get in there, I'd say
hack. What a hack.
Agreed. No, I agree with you. In all seriousness, love what they're doing at Outdoor Life in Field and Stream. Great. I really enjoy, especially the stories. like the adventure stories and great photography, and then also the fact that they do tackle, both those magazines tackle some of the tougher topics that we like to try to talk about here, the conservation or ethics or different things like that we try to speak to sometimes that you don't see a whole lot in other magazines, and I think they do a good job of touching on that. Just the most recent issue of Field and Stream and Outdoor Life both kind of cover stuff like that. Like in Field and Stream, the most recent issue, I don't know if you saw the most recent issue or not, but there's like a kind of a state of the whitetail in the country again. And so covering a whole bunch of things, like how things have changed over the last 5 years, which interestingly, we are going to have, hopefully, knock on wood, if everything goes as it's supposed to, next week we are going to have a state of the whitetail report with Kip Adams like we had last year, but we're going to do the 2016 edition now and get all the updates on what's new in the whitetail world. Perfect. So that'll be good. But they did kind of a version of that in Field and Stream, which was interesting. And then Outdoor Life did a whole feature about the North American model of conservation, the North American wildlife kind of conservation ethic, and they cover the 7 kind of main principles. And we've talked about that with Shane Mahoney. We talked about that. But they're kind of examining each one of those different principles, and then maybe how things need to be updated a little bit, or what we need to focus on here in the new kind of generation. So that was interesting, worth checking out. Do you read any of the deer magazines?
I have a subscription to North American Whitetail.
Fun stories on that. I love the big buck stories are kind of cool.
Yep.
I like North American Whitetail, and Deer and Deer Hunting's good one. Quality Whitetails, the magazine from Quality Deer Management Association, is really, really great if you're interested in the management stuff, habitat improvement, food plotting, aging deer, all that kind of stuff. Great resource for that type of thing too.
Right.
You know what magazine I really love that's become like one of my favorites, and it's interesting because I only hunt elk a week or two a year, but Bugle magazine, the magazine produced by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, is like maybe the best hunting related magazine out there over everything. I think like they just do an awesome job, like really great stories, deep stories. It's just like really good writing. It's thick.
Right.
It's full of like lengthy, in-depth articles that lots of times you don't get in some of the other magazines. That I really like it. If you're not a member of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, it's worth joining just to get the magazine. Right. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, North American Whitetail has been in my mailbox for a while now, and it's one of those where not only do you get to see how average Joes basically are killing big deer. It also brings a little strategy into it. Obviously the wind direction and the food plots, hey, I pulled my truck up to a piece of public land. It was my first day hunting, and I shot a deer.
Yeah, you definitely do get some of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those fun ones because for the most part, most of those stories are just average guys,
Yep.
And they're giant deer, so you can it's like a relatable way to dream about big deer, I guess. So.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I like that a lot. The Peterson's magazines are good. I like those. The Eastman's Western magazines are good. I like those. I think those are most of the hunting magazines that I check out. Anything else that we haven't covered on that front?
No, man. I know this is a hunting or a deer hunting podcast, but whenever I got Field and Stream, for some reason, when I was in high school, I loved fishing, and in Field and Stream, they had a ton of detailed ways about how to work your reel and rod, and how to, what structure underneath the water you should be focusing on different types of year or different times a year. And I went to Field and Stream a lot for my fishing information.
Yeah, they've got them and Outdoor Life. They both have some good fishing content. I've been getting really into fly fishing recently since I was out west last summer, so I've been buying a bunch of fly fishing magazines too. There's some. They do a great job with photography. I've noticed like the fly fishing magazines have got some of the best photography of anything I've seen out there. Just like they've got these full like 2-page spreads of like just unbelievable photos that like just like suck you into the environment. I think we need to try to get that brought into the hunting world a little bit better because they're knocking it out of the park.
Do you when you go out fly fishing, do you catch fish every day?
No.
Did you catch fish every day? So
No.
they got some time to. It's not like deer hunting where you can go walk around the woods and take pictures because you'd spook the deer. But
Yeah.
for fly fishing, you may have some spare time to take some extra pictures.
It's true. That's true. There definitely were time. It might be just because I'm an awful fly fisherman, though, Dan. That's definitely possible. So those are the magazines. We've covered shows and videos and books and magazines. What about what we're doing right here, podcasting? Do you listen to any other hunting related podcasts?
Yeah, I tell you, I've got into the Hunt Talk with what's his name?
Randy Newberg.
Randy Newberg, obviously. But on the way to the ATA ATA show this year, I probably listened to 6 Jay Scott Outdoors podcasts.
Yep.
And although it's some of them were very specific on like mule deer in what zone and stuff like that, that probably doesn't it was just how they did it and the way they did it, that and they're basically just told a story about what they did when they went on these hunts or what they're going to do. And it was I found it pretty interesting, although it's way out of my element. I found it interesting, and I consumed a lot of Jay Scott Outdoors podcast.
Yeah, and that's all like Western hunting and fishing, right?
Yep, Western. Let's see. I don't think I don't know if I've ever heard a podcast with him talk about whitetails.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. But to your point, interesting stuff about elk and mule deer, and if you want to do Western hunting, that's a good one to check out. Another Western podcast that I've been hearing a lot of good things about is the Gritty Bowman. That's supposed to be a really good one. I've got to check that out a little bit. Sounds like they're doing a good job. And then I agree with you. I really enjoy Randy's Hunt Talk podcast. That's great. And then the Meat Eater podcast from Ranella, of course. Enjoy his conversations on there. Those are the two hunting podcasts that I listen to regularly. Those are the only 2 hunting podcasts I listen to consistently. I'm gonna always listen to all those episodes. They're just good for both of those. Do a really good job of just diving into issues and thinking about different things and just getting into the nuts and bolts. They're not necessarily tactic focused. Sometimes they talk a little bit about tactic, but mostly it's about a place or a certain issue going on, or stuff like that, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
What else is out there? The Big Buck Registry is another good deer hunting podcast. They focus primarily on more stories. Like they bring in someone and they have them share their deer hunting story. But that's a good one. Michigan Out of Doors has been running a podcast recently, which I got to check out, and they're doing a good job. Oh gosh, there's a gear podcast out there. There's a deer hunting gear podcast. That kind of, it's okay.
The guy who does it's a huge douche.
Oh my gosh, he's the worst. He's really the worst.
He's the worst.
The 9 Finger Chronicles podcast is awesome. That's another good one to check out, right?
That's right. It's probably the second. It's probably the second most popular podcast, period, on the internet.
And primarily because of the interview you did with Quiet Cat that I saw just recently. Tell me you got us a free Quiet Cat.
Oh, I did not. I don't. It's not like a dozen arrows from Easton. They can't just ship me a Quiet Cat.
Dude, all I want is you just leaned over a little tiny Quiet Cat scooting through the woods. That is the vision I want to see. Oh man!
I would have to put a bicycle ringer on it or a horn on it.
Bling 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 bling. Yep, that'd be good.
Yeah, we got to do our shameless plugs, right?
Oh yeah, 9 Finger Chronicles is great, and then the other podcast that I run is the Whitetail Q&A podcast, answering listener submitted questions. So those are definitely 2 that hopefully, right? I don't know, but hopefully we're doing a good job with those. So,
the Wired to Hunt podcast. Let's see, it's on a different level.
You think so? Huh?
It's past the stratosphere.
Well, if you weren't blowing smoke on my ass, I'd be pretty happy about that.
No, and the cool thing about this is, I don't know about you, but I get emails every single day with guys saying, I tell you what, and not all of them led to a successful season in the means of a kill, but hey, they say Dan and Mark, thanks for, putting this content out on the podcast with so and so. I got some advice and I implemented that into the woods, and it got me close, or I got my first buck kill, or I got the buck that I was after for 3 years now. One little thing that they learned on this podcast could help them be successful or get closer. That's rewarding. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. In all honesty, I don't know how the Wired Hunt podcast stacks up compared to all the others out there, but I sure am thankful that it sounds like, like you said, we get tons of messages and reviews and tweets and Facebook messages and everything about people that have found it helpful, and that is super cool. I'm just so glad that we can help people out and that people enjoy it, and either it's, helping someone kill a deer or just helping them get through a long day at work. Like you said, very rewarding. So I hope that, it seems like it from what we're hearing, seems like people are enjoying it, and I hope that we can continue to do a good job. So we gotta step it up, Dan. We gotta keep it going.
There's no such thing as plateaus anymore. We have to continually take it to the next level.
I agree.
Okay, Mark?
All right, let's do it. Let's stick to it. So I think that covers most of the podcasts that I can think of off the top of my head. Anything? Oh, you know what? I enjoy the Joe Rogan podcast when he has someone on related to hunting. You ever listen to any of Joe's stuff?
Yes, I have. Especially like the Jim Shockey, the Cameron Haynes episodes. Those are two that stick out. I know he's had other hunters on there, but those are two. I think he had Remy Warren on too.
Yep, and he's had like 6 with Rinella.
Rinella, yeah.
So yeah, I think those are the ones I know of: Rinella, Shockey, Warren, Haynes, and yeah, that's as far as I can think. So those are fun to listen to. What about other resources? Are there any other, whether it's online or anything else, any other deer hunting or just hunting in general resources that you like to check out? Blogs, websites, forums, anything like that?
No, I tell you, I try to stay away from forums. I've been, I used to be a part of Huntin' Fool on that website, where that gave you a whole bunch of information on Western, like zone stats and success rates and all that stuff. And the forums, and that there's good information, but obviously you had to pay to get the good stuff. But some of those forums, especially, I'll just say it, Archery Talk, I just feel that if you ask a question, there might be a couple sincere answers, but then they always go off on a tangent and they throw hate towards somebody else's response, and it quickly goes off of the actual topic. Yeah. So, and that was just, there's like 2 or 3 examples that I asked some questions. I know it's not all like that, but I just kind of got a sour taste in my mouth from my first time experiences.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that too. I used to be more engaged on forums back in the day, but have had a lot of experiences like that where just a lot of people get nasty. Like you said, that's not all the time. There's plenty of great forums out there, and there's good stuff, and it can be helpful, but it's a bummer when it just gets into a bunch of trolls yelling at people.
Right, and I've got some good information off some of those sites, but nothing that, would want me to continually go back.
Yeah. One forum, though, that I do actually go to learn stuff, and like that I have found consistently positive, is Dan Infalt's forum.
Yeah.
Hunting
I think
Beast.
That's just a bunch of hardcore guys.
Super hardcore.
Yeah.
That's luckily, I know that we're doing things right here on the Wired Hunt podcast when people from the Hunting Beast like what we're doing, because those are like hardcore, serious hunters. And so it's always nice to hear that they're enjoying the podcast. And so that's a good one. If you really want to get into some serious DIY stuff and talk about stuff and get in the nitty gritty, there's some cool things on that site. Yeah, that's about it for forums for me. Bowhunting.com has got a pretty good forum, but I just don't have as much time for it as I used to. Deer and Deer Hunting has a forum that I used to be active on back in the day, but again, no more time now. I check a lot of different deer hunting blogs, because I do the Friday morning mashup post every Friday, where I kind of highlight what I think are the top articles from various hunting blogs across the World Wide Web. So I check a bunch of those. for like conservation stuff, we talked the other day about how it's kind of hard to stay on top of conservation issues,
Yep.
3 blogs that I follow to keep up on that stuff, which I highly recommend, are the Open Country blog from Outdoor Life, the Conservationist, which is one of the Field and Stream blogs, and then the TRCP blog from the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, who we talked to Whit from the other day.
Yep.
Those are 3 blogs that share a lot of conservation stuff. There's some good hunting stuff, like hunting articles and tips and stuff on the Antler Geeks website, which some of my friends run. Realtree.com has got some good articles. QDMA.com is another one, especially like I've mentioned before, if you're interested in the habitat and management. It's one of the best resources out there for that. Which, speaking of, I mentioned earlier that Kip's going to be on the show here soon to talk about the state of the Whitetail Union for 2016. They just released their 2016 Whitetail Report, which is you got to check it out if you haven't yet, Dan. Incredible resource, kind of outlaying all the different harvest data from this past year, from the most recent season that stuff's available for, and all sorts of different current issues going on with deer. Really interesting. You can download that. It's a great PDF you can download for free from their website. So that's a great resource. What else here? Any other sites you follow? Blogs or anything?
I do occasionally go to the Outdoor Life one, but that's about it.
Yep. Jeff Sturgis's Whitetail Habitat Solutions website is a good one. He's got some good articles throughout the year that he posts. Recommend that. I think those are all the main websites and resources that I follow. And there's a ton. And like I mentioned, the Friday morning mashup, check out Wired to Hunt on Fridays. Usually I try to link up as many different articles as I can find there. If you're looking for new sites to follow, that's a good spot to get some ideas too. So
Perfect.
I don't know, man. Any other resources, deer hunting crap that you like to follow on a cold, nasty day when you can't go outside? Anything we're forgetting?
I think we mentioned a majority of it.
All right. I think that's about all I've got too. So
Plus, I hear my daughter screaming upstairs. So that brings my podcast time to an end.
yeah, I did hear that. I was like, all right, Dan's about to have to scoot out. So I hope this is interesting. We weren't necessarily sharing tips or stories or anything, but, some good resources to check out. So we will have links to as much of the stuff as I can remember on the Wired to Hunt blog for this podcast. So be sure to check that out. And otherwise, if you've been enjoying this show, please do leave a rating or review on iTunes. That's a huge help. Make sure to check out the 2 other podcasts we mentioned that Dan and I run, the Whitetail Q&A podcast and the Nine Finger Chronicles podcast. And, of course, we do need to thank our partners who help make the Wired to Hunt podcast possible. So big thank you to Sitka Gear, Trophy Ridge, Bear Archery, Redneck Blinds, Huntera Maps, Ozonics, Carbon Express, Lacrosse Boots, and the Whitetail Institute of North America. And with that, Dan, I think we're going to wrap things up. And one final thing, Dan.
Yes.
I'm waiting for you to host a podcast. How soon are we going to do that? When are you going to host an episode?
Well, let me get some things set up. I think I know what I want to do. It's not going to be a joke. I'm not going to get Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan on the show, although I would like to. I think maybe in March.
All right, sweet. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I liked the idea you floated out there the other day. So if that ends up happening, that's going to be a pretty cool episode. So I think everyone, it'll be fun from the standpoint that you'll be hosting and I could be lazy, but also sounds like we'll learn some good stuff too. So
Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate it. Hopefully these resources will come in handy for you on some cold days in the future. And until next time, have a great week and stay wired to hunt.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.